I grew up in a village of roughly 6,000 people. Mostly. Another time for that story. We didn't have much, but for a while there we did have an arcade next to our Fur's grocery store. This no-name and now non-existent arcade had both the Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter II cabinets and various SNK and pinball entertainment for the dozen or so of us to enjoy. It was impressive it was even there, looking back on it. Anyway, when I tell you all of it was ignored once Mortal Kombat 2 came in, I'm not at all exaggerating. Mortal Kombat 2 is what activated my well-protected passion and fandom for the Mortal Kombat universe. Though the journey has had some severe lulls, I remain loyal. Mortal Kombat is special for me separate of other fighting games outside of Killer Instinct. I am a big Tekken, not Tokan, Tekken, Samurai Showdown, Street Fighter, King of Fighters, and so on, but I hold Mortal Kombat and Killer Instinct a level above them all. Anyway, back to the first MK2 cabinet that entered my life. The one we had included those loud-ass 5 1/4 speakers you could hear upon walking through the doorway even though the cabinet was in the back of the arcade. We were in the middle of nowhere with no internet. I remember nobody being able to do much of anything in the game except for one girl. She was something like 4 or 5 grades above me. She always used Liu Kang, and looking back, she had incredible instincts for the game. She would juggle fools with fireballs and bicycle kicks, had a strategy for being in the corner, out in the open. And how do I remember all of this? Eidetic memory, what a curse. Her go-to against solid competition and higher CPU levels were back jumping into a kick right before landing and at the maximum perfect distance sweep. That distance sweep, she just barely nicked the hitbox with the big toe. You know what I'm saying? She knew Kang's fatality, the Dragon Munch as I called it, still call it that to this day. I was kind of a fan of that girl. Through her runs, I saw Kentaro for the first time and loved the way he looked. I know it's not a popular opinion. I never knew her name and have no idea what happened to her. Maybe none of it ever happened. Anyway, eventually I played enough and read enough EGM to be very good at the game. A cabinet showed up in our little bowling alley a couple years later. Could have been the same one for all I know. The bowling alley and Sonic were literally the only things there for us kids. Anyway, I would run through up to Kentaro using Mylena, my favorite character to use in the game since she existed. People would give me quarters to keep trying to beat the game and watch me throw down perfectly timed teleport kicks and ball attacks. I never beat Mortal Kombat 2 in the arcade. There is very little in this franchise I have yet to consume. Cartoons, comics, mythologies, controversies, and fan backlashes. Pretty much all of it I've been a part of. Mortal Kombat 2 is my favorite. Mortal Kombat 4 is my least. I'm advanced with Mylena, Reptile, Noob Saibot, and Ermac. Pick any one they're in, you're cooked against me. Mortal Kombat movies are still being made, and I'm still hoping for one to be as good as the original. Of course, there is only one Christopher Lambert, but I think effort has been missing more than any one person. The latest MK movie was decent. I'd almost call it mid if it weren't for the opening sequence of events. Casting choices, though, outside of Scorpion were largely poor, and the story kinda just fell apart and got away from itself. Mortal Kombat 2, the movie, seems to be taking a different approach, somewhat. Yes, of course, Carl Urban is an interesting choice on the other side of the release. I'll follow up on his performance as Johnny Cage. I don't think he looks that bad though, right? It also seems this go-round more self-awareness is present. The trailers do have me feeling optimistic, and that's how I want to feel. I feel there is so much to pull from. Much like Resident Evil or Guilty Gear, you really can't go wrong if you follow the formula and the lore. Tweaks here and there, but it isn't that hard to get this one right. In contrast to the Street Fighter films, campiness shouldn't be as prevalent to meet me on the Satisfaction Boulevard. In Mortal Kombat, there is an existential threat to humanity as we know it. Outworld and the ones that control it. There is an anchor to put a bit more grayscale in the story, or nuance. One thing I wish would get rectified, the combat choreography. Movies like this have too much unbelievable wire work. It's already shown in the trailers, it was also shown in the Street Fighter trailers. I wish, with fighting game movies, it was more solid, because they're fighting game movies. Of everything else, I believe the combat should be ultra sharp. John Wick, Matrix style, old kung fu film style. It isn't a deal breaker for me, it never has been, but the original Mortal Kombat film back in the 90s had some really good combat sequences. I don't need to see Johnny Cage slide for 15 yards doing the splits. It just looks wonky when it's done IRL. Anyway, I'll pull away from that gear grinder. The formula is easy. Compete in a tournament. Stop Outworld from owning Earth. Monsters, ninjas, blood, gore. I'm a bit concerned Carl Urban's take on being a smartass will be the focus of his arc, which would leave so much to be desired from a performance as Johnny Cage. See you on the other side of the movie.
We're leaving.